Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geislinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Denver Nuggets at the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Even with the Denver Nuggets here down 0-2, your lineup success is still our top priority. So this is where David and I will dive deep into our top three players that we like for this specific game in the series. We're going to break down the strategy behind our picks and share the insights that will help you put your lineups over the top and into the money. So if you're kind enough to give us a quick like and subscribe to the channel, we'll be giving away two absolutely free lineups here at the end of the breakdown.
Yeah. Oh man, Denver down 0-2. I did not consider that. Now we're heading into, Minnesota's hometown. So can they just pull off the sweep? So we'll find out here. So, but before we get into game three, let's go ahead and do a quick rehash of game two here. They Minnesota destroyed Denver 106-80. Looking like Karl Anthony Towns, Edwards, and Kyle Anderson were the top three. Keeping in mind that Gobert was out for this game. Jokic, Murray, and Gordon were the top three fantasy scorers, and Murray also probably gets bonus points for throwing a heating pad onto the floor there. So fortunate enough for him, he didn't get suspended for this game. The optimal lineup for game two. Karl Anthony Towns actually snuck in at the MVP slot. Jokic again at the star. Nas Reed with the increased playing time with Gobert snuck in at the pro, and then you have Jamal Murray and Kyle Anderson coming in the utility position. Ownership wise, game two's looking pretty good here. Jokic still looks like he's averaging, in the MVP slot about 66%. Edwards about 24.5. Star for Edwards is about 31. So not too many adjustments salary wise. Jokic did come down 500. I believe Edwards did go up 5. A few small jumps here and there. Nothing too significant that would alter, I think, ownership wise drastically there. But yeah, now getting on into game three here. I do. Minnesota is actually coming in as the favorites in this. They're 5-point favorites at 204.5 over under. They offensive rating is still top notch, 115.8. Defensive rating 97.8. And their pace, it's a pretty slow pace, 91.5. It's one of the slower ones here in the playoffs, but that seems to be working for Minnesota. So they don't need a quick pace to looks like to take on Denver here. So obviously Denver is the inverse of that for the two games. Notable injuries, doesn't look like anybody from Minnesota is injured, but there are some pretty key injuries here. So Jamal Murray still game time decision. I have no doubt he'll probably play. However, two new ones popped up since game two. Reggie Jackson, I know he was hurt before, and KCP. This is kind of, I'm kind of curious to see, closer, pay attention to the news here because, they are coming off, a 3-day rest too. So for them to continue to be game time decisions, I don't know if something, happened during that time. They're just not, recovering or whatever. But so, that could be huge implications. Murray will play. He's played through it, but Reggie Jackson and KCP might see their minutes down if they're actually hurt. Game time decision tags don't seem to mean quite a bit in the playoffs, anyways. With that, let's get over. Unless you have anything to add, we can get over here to our key players.
No, but yeah, let's just dive right into this,
All
baby.
right, getting
Get into it.
into it. Who's up on your the first pick here?
So, my first pick, um, I'm just gonna have to keep going back to this. MVP declared today or this evening. Nikola Jokic here at the 17K. At least he isn't 17.5, which I do believe is where he started. But at the 17K, um, you know, he's now the reigning MVP, three of the last four seasons. Um, being down 0-2, uh, if he's just, with Murray being, you know, not full strength from what it looks like. And even if he is, regardless, this team has to flow through Nikola Jokic. He's got to come through here. He's got to show why he's the reigning MVP. Um, I have to go back to that well. Only 5 to 7 teams have come back from down 0-2, at least in the last 20 to 35 years or something like that, ballpark. So this is arguably a must win for them. Um, so if the only person I see making that happen is Nikola Jokic, and I as great as Minnesota looked, it does appear, I can't imagine the defending champs getting swept. Uh, so I think we will see the best game out of them. And that's going to all start with Nikola Jokic. So I'll be having him an MVP and the star. He has been optimal, it feels like, in the star. I believe the first two games, even a lot of times in the first series, not against Minnesota, but the first series of the playoffs um, against the Lakers. It does feel like he was hitting that star position a little bit more often than the MVP, which was a little surprising, but that does help the ownership as well anyway. So I'll have exposure to him at MVP and the star. Um, but I mean, I can't get over the last 5 games, the 40 minutes a game. His usage is at 29%. That's still super high. His fantasy points per game is sitting at 57 fantasy points per game. So, I can't ignore that. And, I just have to have a short memory. Did he have a great game last game? No, he did not. He had a mediocre game, especially for his standards. We're going to need to see a 60 to 65 fantasy point plus night, or just Minnesota falling apart. And I don't see Minnesota falling apart. So I will be heavily owned on Nikola Jokic at the MVP and the star, um, just in case Anthony Edwards does decide, hey, I'm at home now. I'm going to show up. I'm going to show out. Uh, I'm going to feel slighted that I didn't get MVP. I know he was in the talks, just like SGA. Um, so he might feel a little, you know, with a little chip on his shoulder, and now he's playing in front of his home crowd. So I'll be mixing Jokic up here at the MVP and the and the star positions. Uh, no need to go below that, and I'll be equal to the field or a little under. To be honest, my personal belief has now swayed. After the first 2 games I watched with my own eyes, it's going to take a game for me to believe in these Denver Nuggets again right now. I mean, they look absolutely shocked trying to handle this defense that that the Timberwolves are throwing at them, and they just look still completely lost. Oh wait, who just got Defensive Player of the Year again? Rudy Gobert. And was he in last game in game 2? No, he was not. And the Timberwolves still looked amazing. So, um, you know, nonetheless, Nikola Jokic, he's up there with just a handful of names. He's up there now with Kareem, with 3+ MVPs, with a handful of other people. So I do believe that that is going to make him want to show up, show out, and remind people why, you know, why he is is deserving of that award. Um, Granted, it's supposed to be a regular season award. We all know it isn't. We all know it carries into the playoffs. It is what it is. So I got Nikola Jokic as my first starting play. Uh, if Denver's going to win any game, this is going to be the game they're going to win. So that's where I'm at. What are your thoughts on that? Who you got here for your first?
Yeah, no, yeah, Nikola Jokic, yeah, obviously like the play. He haven't really been, looking like himself in the first two games. Now, whether that, be, the team, at least game two looked like they were, it was Denver versus the refs. But, Jokic still ended up putting up 46 stars, so I still see him, being a viable play there. Yeah, I will have him, like you mentioned, probably at the field. There's no need to think that he's not going to get his typical points or so. Uh, and they need it, like you said, it's like a must win for them. So, yeah, like the play. Getting in here to my first one, I'm going to go with Mr. Carl Anthony Towns. Yeah, I like him coming in here. I know he was MVP last time, but I do only like him really in the star and the pro position at 13K. Simply another reason is Gobert's coming back, so that will eat into some of his production there. Minute wise, looking like the last two games, about 33.3. Usage really nice, 23.4. Average points about 39.1. He is projected about 32.9 points, which I think that's probably where he'll be at. He is averaging about 23 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, zero point 0.5 steals, 1 block, and 1.5 turnovers. So um, yeah, not too much to say there. His overall ownership has been about 37%, two of which is an MVP, 15 at both star and pro, and then 5%. So there's really no benefit to, ownership wise to play him star over pro. It's just I'm basing that he's probably going to be one of the top fantasy scorers in this game. So, that's why I like him. I think he'll have another productive game. He's, one of their pretty good offensive players there. So with that, that's I like him. What do you think about that play before I go ahead and get into number two here?
Yep, my only 2 cents on him would be that a lot of times how Gobert went missing, personal reasons here in the last game, because Anthony Towns did have such a great game. A lot of times the coach will give him a couple extra opportunities, a couple extra minutes. He is that more offensive player, so if that is what they're needing, I could see him getting those couple extra minutes or possessions or shots, which again could equal extra fantasy points. So I could definitely see him still being viable, and then his ownership being down now that Gobert's back. So I like the play a lot. Same exposure. I really like him at the star the most, but I'll have exposure up and down the board for him. So
Yeah,
yeah,
my only
great cut.
concern
Great,
with him
great
is
pick.
keep your hands to yourself, dude. Stop
Yeah,
fouling.
yeah.
Don't get in foul trouble. Don't get in foul trouble. That's my only concern with that guy. But
100%.
moving on here to number two, I'm actually gonna. I'll stay on this side of the ball here. I'm gonna go his counterpart, Rudy Gobert. Welcome back.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Uh,
He did take game two off the birth of his kid, but hopefully coming back, he has a reason to, play at a high level now. Maybe to show, the first game back, being a dad, what it's like. I like him at the Star Pro, coming in at 12.5. I believe that is actually, Yeah, slightly 500 less than game one, so I guess he took a game two off to help with the salary wise. But so this is only based on the one game, or well, two games, but he didn't play one. 35 minutes. His usage was pretty low. Production wise, offensively, he didn't really get the ball, but he made up for it. Defensive wise, so he still ended up with about 38.1 fantasy points. He is projected 39 this time. Like I did mention, 6 points. He had 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks, no turnovers in that game one matchup. So, defensive player of the year, you better come through with a couple more blocks this game. Maybe a steal or two, and hopefully slightly more points than 6. I would like to see him, up where he's at the high 30s, low 40 range at that salary. So overall ownership about 32%, 3% MVP, 16 star, 10% or 11% pro utility. So I think him coming back, slightly lower salary. The star and pro will probably be similar to Towns, about even. So it's just I'll be probably rotating him and Towns at that star pro, probably same lineup, just alternating them there
Okay.
to get the benefit on who do I think is going to be that guy.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I definitely like that play as well. He's averaging, Rudy Gobert's averaging about 47 fantasy points per game here in 8 close games. That's over 8 close games. Him and Mike Conley seem to have a good relationship going. So that'll kind of allude to one of my players later. But yeah, I see him having a large game here coming back after the birth of his son. That should be highly motivating. It usually is for most players. Uh, his team stepped up for him while he was gone. So he wants to step back in and have a game as like a thank you. And now they're in front of their home crowd. They could go ahead and make this series 3-0, and we know it's all but over if they can handle that. So it'd be great for the city, great for them, and I think they're ready to go ahead and get over here to the next level. So love the pick, love the
Nice.
pick for
Who you
sure.
got for your second pick coming into this?
So my second pick here, as much as I want to hop to my third one, I'll go to the second because this is in semi order. I'm going with Anthony Edwards. You know, I know big shock. I'm taking the two top guys from each team, but Anthony Edwards, just too much to ignore. I do feel like Gobert missing here in that second game is why he had 20 less fantasy points for Edwards here from game one to game two. Gobert just does too much stuff to uh, stop things from happening on the defensive end and get some fast break stuff to kick out, but also getting those offensive rebounds and then kicking out to the open guy like an Anthony Edwards to make stuff happen. And again, Edwards is in top five in MVP voting, uh, and he's now in front of his home crowd. He's only 22 years old, and those type of players play the best in front of their home crowd. Um, his usage is at 30%. He's averaging 53 above fantasy points here over the last 5 games. This game's giant. I mean, they go up 3-0. Like I mentioned, most teams don't come back from that in the history of the game, and this really sets them up to make it to the third round. So, with his salary at 15.5, to me, it's a pretty easy fit, and yeah, I just really like Anthony Edwards here. I don't know how to get away from him. He hasn't really had back to back, you know, under 40, under, the 50-point fantasy games in quite some time in the past. It's been a minute. So I like him a lot, and I'll be having heavy exposure to him. And yeah, I see them also taking this game. I mean, if Denver's going to win any game, it'll be this one. But if not, I really see Minnesota getting uh, you know, holding this one down here. So, what do you? Again, I got Edwards at the star, at the MVP and the star. That's about it. I might venture out into pro depending on how many lineups I do, but other than that, MVP and star, that'll be about it. what are your thoughts on Mr. Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, no, obviously I like Edwards. He'll be the other play at MVP. I think, with Gobert back, I don't think Towns will have the production to get back to MVP. But so it's probably going to be Jokic or Edwards. So I'll be probably at the field, maybe just slightly over, being that it is the hometown. But um, I'll probably be leaning more Jokic because I think it's needed more, and he might be dipping down in ownership because of that. Everybody's thinking probably the same thing. Hey, Anthony Edwards, home crowd. I'm going him. He's cheaper. So might get the ownership play, like you mentioned, throwing him in the star. He drops down from uh, MVP about 25%. Oh yeah, he's quite MVP is 25%, and the star he's 31%. So bumping him up to MVP would be a good ownership play there. So it just depends. Salary wise, I like him. I mean, I think this is the first time he's actually over 50. Oh no, he was at 16K, so he actually went down. So I know all Phoenix game he was at like 15K. So nice to see him, moving up in the world here in Fanduel. So with that, obviously like him. Gonna have plenty of him, so nothing too much else to add there. Who do you got as your third player here?
So yeah, my third and final pick here. We'll go with my top assist combo from Edwards. Is going to go, him and Mike Conley go really well hand in hand. Mike Conley's kind of the other voice to this squad, a little bit more of that veteran voice, and he's been balling lately. Um, and I see him coming out and also again getting this job done. Um, he's basically averaging, I'd say, right around 32 fantasy points per game. He's at 10.5. He does have the upside of, that 37 to 40 fantasy points. But he has been exceeding his projected fantasy points on just about every site by a minimum of minimum to 2 to 5 on average, and then here and there a little bit more than that. But in a game that if you win this, you basically know the series is over. And again, in front of your home crowd, this is what these guys play for. Um, he fits my build really well. I'll mainly have him at the pro. Um, I might get a little cute and put him at utility and try to find a utility guy that I think can, have that game just slightly above what Conley will. Um, you know, that's in that range. But, other than that, I really do like Conley. Um, to me, this is like a closeout game for them. Yeah, do they have a 2 game cushion? For sure. Do these guys feel like they're treating it that way? Definitely not. Did they take 2 games on the road from the champs, the defending champs? Yes, they did. And now they're going to be at home. The crowd at a home game is just insane. So my exposure to him again, he hasn't broken 40 fantasy points in forever, including playoffs and regular season. You'd have to go back to the 2022 season just for 1 game. So I'm not expecting anything crazy. So I'm not going to get crazy with the expectations, but at the pro and utility, I will definitely have some exposure to him there. A lot of my lineup builds are 4-1 Minnesota, at best 3-2 Denver. Don't get me wrong, I'll stack a couple Denver lineups, but other than that, love Mike Conley. He's only at 10.5. So that's my third play. What are your thoughts? And who do you got here for your final play here on the block?
Conley's kind of in that in between thing, and like you mentioned, those builds of 4-1 Minnesota, and it's just unfortunate that Denver has 6 people to play, and they're all the worthy ones are priced over 10K. So it's rough to get 2 or 3 of them in a lineup and not have to just bite the bullet pretty bad there. So I think Minnesota's pricing's a little bit better to optimize some of their lower guys, or at least their lower guys are more utilized and they can actually you can see value in them. Where Denver, it's just let's throw the dice and see who gets it. Um, but yeah, Conley at 10-5 on yeah, that would be more of a lineup play for me. Can I fit him in? There's really no difference ownership wise between him and the pro or utility, so I can't really see um, too big of an advantage. Like, I mean, he's at 12% pro, 17% utility, so I guess it's slightly higher. I'll benefit in the pro just a little bit, but um, I might look elsewhere. But at 10-5, he is good. I just need him to be a little bit more productive with the points. I don't think he'll have another 4-point game. I think you'll have more, like you said. I think the correlation with Gobert was missing for him there. So hopefully that picks back up and he can get those, those mid-teen points. That obviously helps out his fantasy score. So yeah. No, other than that, that's good.
Definitely.
I think that's like I said, it's just going to be a lineup play for me. How can I, if I do choose to use him, like where am I going to put him, and who am I sacrificing? Not really sacrificing, but who am I going to give up to put him in?
Yeah, agreed. That's my biggest choice as well. So yep, 100% agreed. So cool.
Speaking of that, because this is one of the people that I would have to give up to play him, and it's a tough decision there. Mr. Aaron Gordon coming in for me, 500 more than Conley, coming in at 11K. I like him both at that pro utility slot. He seems to be doing fairly well. I mean, it's always between him and MPJ over there. However, MPJ he needs to stop going up in salary. But
yeah,
so with his minutes coming in, both games he's averaging 32.8, usage 16.7. He's averaging 28. He's projected 30. If he gets going, he does it, kind of all. He doesn't score too many points or anything, but he's in those mid-teen points. However, he comes through. Rebounds, assists, and on the defensive end. So he's averaging about 14.5 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals, 0 blocks, 1 turnover. So he's pretty consistent there, but he can actually get up and get going. So last 2 games, 29 fantasy points, 26 fantasy points. That's why I'm kind of keeping him at that pro utility. There's just too many people I like better at the star and obviously MVP position. So with that, ownership wise, 1% MVP, 4% star, 20% pro, and 21% utility. So really no play there. I'm just basically in that point hoping that he's going to be one of the higher utility position or the pro scorer there. So unfortunately, there's no upside to where you really put him, but I'm hoping he has one of those more pro games. The higher 30s or mid 30s. I'd like from him. So, what do you think about that? Before we go ahead and get over here to our lineups,
break into it. So yeah, my only main concern with him is he is now at 11K. He also went up 500. He has not broke 30 fantasy points all season long, and we both know all season long, both teams have had a different iteration of their starting lineups or available players. So that kind of concerns me because we've seen an array of different, different people on the floor, and even though his minutes are typically there, he has yet to break that 30 fantasy point mark besides last game where he hit 30. And even
go
ahead.
In game 5, he hit 35 points. Game 3, he hit 52. Game 1, he hit 35.
Correct. Okay, no. So going into last season, correct. I was gonna just touch on
from the
even then
against the Lakers.
Oh, okay. So I was looking at him strictly
Oh,
against
gotcha,
Minnesota.
gotcha. Okay.
So that's why, yeah, it just is a matchup thing. Um, and it just feels like, their coach, Finch, he used to be, or their GM used to be, he built the Denver team. That's kind of been a narrative for this series and everything, and that he's going to build a team to beat the Denver Nuggets. That's basically what he's done. And he's been with the team this year and last year. Um, and even last year, Gordon literally, you know, his best game was a 55 fantasy point game, and that was forever ago. Like I'm talking arguably 2 years ago, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 12 games ago. So, uh, is his upside always there? Yes, he's Aaron Gordon. Um, but the math, to me, I'm a math guy. I look at the numbers. Uh, could he have enough? Does that mean he's overdue? Is it, is he need that? Yes. But man, his salary going up that other 500, that does concern me a little bit. As you and I both know, come playoff time, every $500 makes a difference. But he would, last game also no go bear, which is when he did have his best game. But I'm not going to argue. There's him. Could Reed do the same thing at 10? Yes. Will I sprinkle in some Gordon? Of course. Now that MPJ's 12,000, that's getting a little out of control. I don't think MPJ's earned that in this series and whatnot. But yeah, decent play. My least favorite out of the three, if I'm being completely honest. But again, your build might take you there. A couple different builds. So yeah, yeah. That's what's up. I'm glad we got a couple different approaches here then to this slate. And yeah, what's what we
All
popping
right,
to
yeah.
next
So,
here?
yeah. Well, there's the key players. Thanks for listening. If you have any want information on other players that we didn't mention, obviously we try to keep it to six to try to weed down on the time. Obviously if we went over every player, this video would be 5 hours long and no one would watch it. So yeah, no. With that, so we're gonna get over to our lineups. If you're just joining us, welcome to DFS Insights. We just gave our key player breakdowns for these lineups. So if you're looking at these lineups like, yeah, these guys don't know what they're talking about, go back, listen to our key player breakdown. You'll understand why we chose who we did. And with that, also make sure you like, subscribe, comment, notification bell, all of that. That does help out the channel quite a bit. So with that, here's the lineups here. So looking like different lineups. So that's not too bad there. No. All right, I like
Yeah.
it there. So yeah, stay tuned. Be covering majority of these, more or less the Western conference games here. So probably the next one that will be covered will be the OKC. Oh my God, yeah, thank you. Okay,
Dallas.
oh my God,
Yeah, I know, right?
just watched the game.
Yeah. I
OKC
know.
Dallas
Yeah.
won. I did end up placing second place in that. Just had to flip the MVP and star. Would have placed first, but moving on. Forget, live and learn. And then, so yeah, stay tuned. We're covering as much playoff here. The tournaments are getting larger, so the more information that you guys know, the more likelihood that potential to hit that top prize. So with that, good luck, and David, take it away.
Yeah, man. Just keep following us here throughout the playoffs. Each prize pool throughout each of these next two rounds, going into the Western Conference Finals and then into the finals. These prize pools are only going to get bigger. David and I have been following NBA this entire season, especially these playoffs. So we're only getting better. The information's only, the numbers that we keep are only also getting stronger to point us all in the right direction. So stay tuned for that. If you got any questions or anything, leave a comment. Please subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you always know when the next one's coming out. And we'll see you here on the next one. Good luck.